What's going on, people? So I have a couple shoes here. Well, I got several shoes actually out, but two for this little video, though one is actually the only one I'm really talking about, you know. So here's the things. So I have a pair of these already. I did the actual review, did a follow-up thing, and then I think I brought them in for a third time when I was doing was it the Magic Speed or the Kensei Max? Something else. So I've talked about these 3 times, so I'm not going to talk about them a whole lot today, right? And then this other pair over here, same thing, just a slightly smaller edition or whatever. Though, since it does still like standard men's sizing, you get the joy of paying the full price still, so I'm not thrilled about that. Either way, these are for my aunt, right? So that way I can get some kind of other take on these, from someone who's just wearing them just to wear them. So there is that, right? I'll be breaking these out. Hopefully the plan is this weekend. Got a little 5K action going on back in the great state of Iowa, greatest state of all, actually. So there is that. That's a fact. Don't try to dispute it or anything. So anyways, there's a little bit of a backstory as to why these are here, right? Just wanted a fresh pair for a fresh race. So there is that. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. This right here, the Asics Superblast 2 in the digital teal colorway, Wave Teal colorway, I think that's what it's called. I saw the side of the box earlier, didn't really fully read it, but I kind of had some of the words in mind, so I think it was close. It is actually the same color style of these right here, though. It comes off a little different because this has a little bit of black, and I guess this has some other color switched in there, but this being the Nova Blast 5 from several reviews ago. But yeah, anyway, and I also picked up some shirts at some point that I might show off at some point in the video, I don't know. Either way, so I'm not going to get too deep into this because there's no real reason to. Let's just move on. Across the bottom, down there, the standard outsole, right, that you see on a lot of their newer things or whatever. Very wide for like stability reasons and whatnot, but otherwise not a whole lot really happening. There is a lot happening when you come up here to this midsole though, because that is thick, right? So it's what, 45 millimeters, I believe, for the height, and that's going to be this is an 8mm drop, so whatever 45 minus 8 is, in the front, that's what you got going on there, right? Also, one quick thing to add in here, because it is mildly relevant, I suppose, because it could be a little misleading to some people. So this midsole here, right, before we go moving on past that, you see like there's a white layer and like a teal layer or whatever color this one is. So the upper one, as it says in the front, Flight Foam Turbo Plus, right? So that's what's going on in the top. But this bottom layer here, it's labeled on the back, Flight Foam Blast Plus, right? That's the same stuff you see on like the Kayanos and the Nimbuses, right? So it is like a dual layered midsole. Most of it is the good stuff, which is on the top, right? So in case you're wondering if this whole thing is just the turbo, it is not, okay? It still works out fine in execution though. Like I said, I've put in a good number of miles and whatnot in these. So moving on past that, a couple other pictures here real quick so you can kind of see what all is going on with these, which isn't a whole lot to be completely honest. But I will say I do like the look of it, right? Some of the other colors make this look a little bit better just because of the way they do it or whatever. But this one I got no complaints about, and I do really like this sort of teal that they're doing, so that's kind of why we are where we are. But anyways, otherwise, I'm going to jump on into some things, tell you, I guess really I'll just do the personal thoughts piece or whatever, right? Because that's really all there is to say about these. I've covered everything there is to say, so we'll just move on into that. Personal thoughts, right? I am a big fan of the Superblast 2, right? It's one of those things where it seemed like there might have been a little bit of hype behind it, and sometimes that can be real and sometimes it can be not so real. This time around it happened to work out very well, right? So that's why I ended up picking up this other pair. And I saw this color and I thought to myself, okay, well, the Asics guy had said some new colors are coming around. I thought he had said summer, but this is here now and I like this one. Reminds me of those Nova Blast 5. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. It's slightly different, but should still be good enough, right? And then person, looking at them and all that good stuff, yeah, I do like these a whole lot, right? So knowing what I'm getting into as far as like how the model works is one thing, but hoping that it looks how you want it to look when you actually get it is another. And like I said, it doesn't always work out, but this time around it did. So you get no complaints out of me for that, right? So if this is the color you're into, go ahead, jump on it, do whatever makes sense to you. I will say they do have these in a couple different places, right? Dick's Sporting Goods had them, Fleet Feet had them, right? Of course, Asics, where I got mine, had them. My aunt's pair came from Fleet Feet, that's why that's kind of on my mind. But yeah, so there's a couple places out there, but you know, as things move on, the weather starts to change, the sales, excuse me, the stock might start to drop a little bit. The sales, I have not seen any of these on sale, unfortunately, but just act fast is kind of like where I'm going with that, because you might want to. Anyway, so past that, I'm going to move on into the sizing, the comfort and all that good stuff and whatever. But the one thing I will say before I jump into this, right, so as far as like for these, for me, right, I wore the pink, the magenta pair for the Norfolk Harbor 5K and 10K weekend, right? Got my best times in both, so I can definitely say that like these do work out or whatever. But I'll get a little bit more into like all that stuff in a second here. I bought these in a 9.5, right? Because that's a true to size fit for me, and the last pair was true to size, and they worked out great. So I figured, you know, let's do it again, right? Let's keep that train rolling. So that's how this played out for me. I have a, like I said, size 9.5 foot, size 9.5 shoe. It's working out great, right? Now, lengthwise, things are good. Got no complaints. Widthwise, it looks like it would be a little bit wider than it actually is, because I think that's just because the way the midsole makes the shoe look a little bit wider. But these don't feel like some Adidas that I had reviews of that I was doing recently. The SL, the Evo SL and stuff. Yeah, so these don't feel quite as wide as that, but still wide enough, in my opinion, right? So I think true to size is going to work out for a lot of people. Now, as far as moving on past that, right, like, also the overall breathability is solid too, because you might have seen it's very open with the stitching on here. Now, the main thing here, obviously, is the heel, not the heel, but like the midsole and stuff, right? So the midsole here, like I was saying earlier, you got what, 45 millimeters in the back, right? It's an 8 millimeter drop, so whatever that math is to the front, you know, and all that flat foam turbo feels really good. I had no complaints about it for the most part, right? It feels a little more stable than like some of those like the Nova Blast 5, which can feel a little squishy, so I'm a big fan of that. But it's still got some give to it, right? Because I was running once in a pair of these. I went to jump up on a curb or whatever, and I knew I didn't like completely place my foot like firmly where it should have been or whatever. But I've been running in something that was a lot more stable at that point, so I was expecting it to be fine, and it was not fine, and things almost took a bad turn because these just kind of, they adjusted a little bit more to the curb than I was expecting them to, I'll say that. But in the end, everything is good with these. I highly suggest them if you're willing to pay the $200 for them. It's a little much, and I get that, but I think that it's going to work out fine for a lot of people. So there is that. Also, one thing that I was going to mention past like the sizing and whatnot. So these right here, this is the Glycerin Max, right? It's also a 45 millimeter in the back there. It's only a 6 millimeter drop, which actually makes these feel really good. And I bring that up because like someone was asking recently about like how I feel about that stuff. Like most of the things that I run in happen to just be lower numbers as far as like the drops go, right? And I didn't really realize that until recently. So I'm not going to sit here and say like anything that's like got those higher numbers like the 10s and 12s is going to be necessarily bad, but you might want to figure that out for yourself, because you know we could be very different people with very different builds and very different personalities and how we like things to fit and feel and stuff, right? So I'd say like if you're looking at just those numbers, it's something to keep in your mind, but maybe also go out and try some things. I just happen to have noticed recently when going back and reviewing things like, yeah, I happen to like the lower numbers. They feel really good, especially those Glycerin Maxes at a 6. Walking around in, yeah, it feels nice and level. Big fan of it. From me to you, have a nice rest of your day or rest of your night, whatever it is, wherever you are. I got to move on, talk about some, what's this, the edges and the skies. It's going to be one video though. Later, people.